In this world, roughly 800 million people are currently being severely underfed. But with the use of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, this staggering number can be significantly reduced. The use of GMOs should be encouraged and taken advantage of in order to feed the hungry due to their exponential increase in nutrients, the increased production yields of the crop, and the decreased use of pesticides for these crops. Now we'll discuss the various ways the GMOs can increase themselves in nutrients, discuss the higher yields that come from these crops, and also the decreased use of pesticides. Genetically modified crops can contain nutrients of much greater value and quantity in the same amount of the unmodified crop. In many developing countries, malnourishment is a paramount issue affecting millions upon millions of people. This is why farmers and companies should be interested in producing a crop with a desirable trait with an increased amount of vitamins or nutrients. A specific example of this is the biotech production of golden rice. According to the online article In a Grain of Golden Rice, with the use of golden rice, a modified strain of rice that contains substantially higher amounts of vitamin A and also other nutrients, this vitamin deficiency can be aided and potentially brought to a halt. According to the Golden Rice Project, there are approximately 250 million children that have a vitamin A deficiency, causing for over 250,000 of these children to go blind each year and causing many deaths upon that. Now that we understand how crops can contain more nutrients, we may discuss another aspect that favors genetically modified crops over unmodified crops. Genetically modified crops can be engineered to withstand unfavorable conditions and also to produce higher yields. Genetically modified crops can be modified in order to withstand harsh conditions such as storms or droughts. Crops such as corn and soybeans require rich soil and water in order to flourish. But with the genetic modification, crops such as these and many more can be grown in conditions that are extremely unfavorable, such as sand, potentially, and such as climates with much less water. These modified crops can also be changed in order to withstand heavy storms and droughts. This modification not only benefits the developing countries, but it helps every farmer and company growing these crops because it grows a much stable, more reliable food source. Partly due to the fact that these crops are able to grow in a various set of conditions and withstand harsh weather, the yields of these crops will increase a fair amount. But also the yields will increase due to the volume increase in these new traits, these foods. Modified crops can also be easily modified in order to produce a larger crop of larger volume. According to Can GMOs End World Hunger, outputs of corn, rice, and soy have increased by 30% thanks to genetic modification. According to 27 disadvantages and advantages of genetically modified foods, in India, it was shown that farmers increased their yield per acre by 24% over the last 10 years. It is also estimated that by 2050, crop yields will increase by 70% due to genetic modification in order to compensate for the world's growing population. Along with the more nutritious foods and having more of it, there is another benefit to the use of GMOs. Genetically modified crops do not require the large use of pesticides as unmodified crops do. Pesticides and herbicides are sprayed onto crops in order to keep insects and other pests away and also to keep the weeds away from destroying these crops. The use of these have increased over the years due to these old sprays and chemicals becoming immune to the weeds, and so they need to create these new chemicals in order to kill the pests and the weeds. These chemicals are slowly getting into the groundwater and contaminating this water, and also runoff from rain carrying these chemicals into natural water sources is contaminating the surface water. This is why genetic modified crops are essential in order to keep these harmful chemicals away from our water sources and potentially harming us through contamination and also harming the environment. According to the online article, GMO Food Pros and Cons, genetically modified crops are resistant to pests and weeds, so there would be no need for added chemicals. In turn, this would decrease contaminations and overall aid the environment as a whole. While there are counterparts that say the use of GMOs are harmful and not natural, many of these people believe that the use of these would leave people at risk for cancer. But these claims are held with little to no evidence and refuted by facts that show there are not ties between cancer and genetic modification. There also seems to be a lot of skepticism between the use of GMOs and the reliability of them, seeing as though Western European countries such as France are outlawing GMOs as a whole. This is causing for skepticism to spread into Africa, as Europe has a lot of influence on these African countries, but there is no true evidence to back up the unreliability of these, as there is plenty of evidence backing up the reliability of them. Now that we know the many benefits of using genetically modified organisms, we can review those points and come up with a conclusion. Genetically modified organisms benefit developing countries because same quantity foods can be packed into vital vitamins and nutrients required for survival. Genetic modification also aids in higher yields and overall larger volumes of crop to be produced, in turn creating a larger and more reliable food source. Due to the genetic engineering, the use of pesticides will become obsolete, helping keep water cleaner and keeping the environment healthier. The use of genetic modification is an essential step in order to feed the growing population of this world. This is why the world as a whole must accept the use of genetically modified crops in order to not only help the hungry, but the rest of the population as a whole.